Welcome back to a new episode of The Big Three, the monthly podcast where we break down the biggest trends in insight and stories shaping influencer marketing and the creator economy. I'm your host, Ceci Carloni, and as always, I'm here with my co-host, Ahene, founder of Net Influencer. Nice seeing you again. How's everything going?
Pretty good. Just getting ready for this busy holiday season, gift buying, spending time with family, travel, and try not to miss
Yeah.
flights. So we'll see. We'll see.
We have a great lineup of stories for this episode. So if you're ready, let's jump into story number one.
Do it.
Sounds good. Awesome. Well, the first one is about Unilever. We talked about Unilever a couple of times already in this podcast. Earlier this year, they announced moving half of their brand and marketing spend into social because basically they believe people trust creators more than brands. And now their home care division is really putting that belief into action through Clinipedia, their creator-driven platform. And actually, if you're not familiar with Clinipedia, it actually started over 20 years ago as this basic website with cleaning tips. But after the pandemic, they rebuilt it into a global creator platform that now works with around 2,000 creators to bring basically the science behind their products like Cif and Persil to life on TikTok and Instagram. But I think this isn't just like a content play. It's part of the new CEO strategy and something they call the Ceci framework, where saved by others is literally one of the core pillars, meaning creators deliver the message, not the brand. So the real story for me is that Clinipedia is basically Unilever admitting that creators can deliver brand messages better than Unilever itself. So to me, it's like a power shift because you're giving up a lot of the control. I want to hear from Uni. What do you make out of this? Do you think more legacy brands are going to follow this model where trust doesn't come from the brands anymore, but from actual creators who explain the brand for them? Do you think that's already happening? What's your thought on this?
Yeah, I mean, I had a chance to take a look at the Cleanopedia websites or social profiles. And it's interesting because it looks like they create one of these per country or per market that they're focused on. So there's like a UK one, there's a South Africa one, there's a US
Yeah, I
one,
checked the
etc.
Argentina one.
Yep. And so just looking at the content, it's pretty socially native. And what I mean by that, it's unpolished, right? And so, I've been in the digital and ad agency space for 20 plus years. I couldn't imagine a company like Unilever being okay with putting content out that is this kind of raw and native. But that's exactly what the meta is on a TikTok and on an Instagram and on a YouTube short. And you're still educating the consumer. So I think this is amazing. It's amazing that Unilever and the leadership at Unilever is really embracing kind of having this native content from real creators that look like, regular people that you would see at the supermarket or on the street. And they're still getting the brand message across without kind of being too structured or too polished. And so, yeah, if it's working for them, they have a ton of engagement across these different accounts, and I don't see why other brands wouldn't embrace this, especially for brands that are focused on CPG, not necessarily like luxury or prestige type products. And so, this is a fantastic development, and it shows that, yeah, this is how you get across. This is how you win attention on these platforms. So this is great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you think not just legacy brands, but maybe smaller brands without the history and the establishment of Unilever, can adopt this?
I think smaller brands absolutely have to. I mean, it's about winning the algorithm. And anytime something feels like an ad, the user really doesn't want to engage in it. So the more you can have your content feel like it's something that's native on the platform that you're hearing from a friend or a colleague or a parasocial influencer, the better. And so I think
Yeah.
smaller brands have a better opportunity to leverage this strategy than the larger brands because we kind of come to expect a large brand needs to have polished content. The smaller brands absolutely should embrace this because it gives them an opportunity to compete because there's not an expectation of a certain level of quality or polish for their content and their advertising message. So yeah, I definitely think this is something that smaller brands can and should embrace.
And sure, absolutely. All right, let's go to the next story, which is also about a global brand building their own creator platform. This is about Radisson, the global hospitality company, who recently launched Creator Hub, which is basically, again, a platform designed specifically for nano influencers. The model is super simple. Instead of paying cash, Radisson gives these creators a free 3 night hotel stay for two in exchange for content that shows off the property, design, culture, food, all of that. Obviously, the idea is not new, but packaging it as an actual platform that operates across 210 hotels makes it feel a bit more strategic. They, of course, also use briefs, guidelines, and even gamification system to keep creators engaged. Um, I think that for creators, specifically nanos, this is a big opportunity. I think Radisson is basically saying you don't need a huge audience to participate in hospitality marketing anymore. That opens the door for a lot of people. Now, do you think this is the start of like a bigger shift where brands stop relying on agencies and marketplaces and instead build their own internal creator systems? And if so, what does this mean for the rest of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes to travel in particular, because the gift is such high value, right? Multiple night stay at properties, that has, real tangible value, right? And so I think it's something that travel businesses, hospitality brands can probably do because there's value, clear monetary value in that experience. You're not working the entire time. There's an expectation to create content, but most of the time you get to enjoy the actual product or the experience. And so I think you can kind of separate hospitality brands from other sorts of brands that might have physical products or other products in terms of, the ability to have their own ecosystem. Now, do I think agencies are going to go away or marketplaces? Not at all. I think this gives Radisson, it addresses a challenge that hotel brands have, right? Where, for every location there's a Radisson, you need to create content for your social media feed to stay on top of the
Yeah.
algorithm. And that content needs to be relevant and timely, and so this gives them the ability to go ahead and source that in mass, which is why they don't care about followers here. They're looking for nanos because nanos, they can work with a bunch of nanos and have a bunch of different content across all their locations. But even that organization and coordinating all of that and then figuring out how you take that content and you distribute it on paid channels or other channels, that's still a process. And so it sounds like Radisson has scaled up a team internally to do that. But in the wider industry, to be able to say, okay, we're going to have a product that people want that we can give out for free, and we can have, you know, all this content coming in, we have to organize it and then figure out what we're going to amplify, what we're not going to amplify. I still think most organizations aren't going to build the internal teams and processes to be able to do that. And so, yeah, I still think that the agencies will exist. But this is cool to see Radisson really leaning in to help their properties across the globe get the content they need to stay relevant. So.
And for the creators themselves, I think that the value is not just in the actual stay itself, it's accessing also the opportunity to create amazing content as well that maybe in other cases they wouldn't have access to or have to obviously pay for the stay, right?
Or they'd be doing it for free, right? And there's always a balance, right?
Mhm.
Because, obviously we want our creators to be able to have a livelihood and be able to do what they need to do. And so, if you're truly a travel creator and you have a following, there's value to you creating that content. And so again, this is focused on nano creators that have smaller followings. This is a great opportunity for them to kind of break
Yeah.
into the space, build that portfolio, and hopefully kind of level up in their content creation and the ability to create true value and connection for brands. So.
I'm also curious, Annie, about what you think about the model itself. Free stays instead of payment. Do you think this risk normalizing unpaid work, or do you see opening up more access for creators?
I mean, it's not like they're asking Mr. Beast to do a free stay, right? And I think there's always gonna be a level of creator where if you have distribution, if you have clout, if you have true influence, you're gonna be able to charge for that distribution. And so if the lens I look at this is, hey, if you're focused on nano creators, yes, this is an opportunity to build your portfolio. You shouldn't rely on this to build your whole
Absolutely.
entire career, but this is an opportunity to kind of get your foot into the door, create
It's like,
content for a well-known brand, and maybe with that, you can then leverage that to kind of start to get paid other places. Does it normalize? Honestly, the industry came from free giveaways, right? That's the reality. 15 years ago, nobody was getting paid for influencer content. Everybody was doing a free content. I don't see us going back anytime soon because I think the power of creator-led content is understood, and especially if you have
absolutely.
distribution, I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
Yeah. All right. So, speaking of the industry more broadly, our last story takes us into the bigger picture. To wrap things up, we have Quartermass Advisors' new report, their 2025 Influencer Marketing M&A report. We talked about M&A a lot in this podcast already, but the report basically shows that even though M&A deals dropped almost 69% last year, 2025 has seen a rebound, especially in influencer agencies and SaaS platforms. Again, we talked about a few deals that really stood out before, like Publicis acquiring Influential, and more recently, Captivate for over $175 million. Then later acquiring Mavely, Sprout Social buying Tagger. Those are some of the deals that really stood out this last year. And what is exciting, I think, is their outlook for 2026 is even stronger, more broader deals, sorry, more $100 million plus acquisitions and more demand for companies with proven margins and scalable models. I'm really curious to see what happens in 2026 because I think this activity keeps bringing more eyes to our industry, and every new acquisition, I think, kind of level ups the whole space. But me, I'm curious to know what stood out for you the most in this report. Was there anything in the data or the deal trends that surprised you or confirmed maybe what you've been seeing this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's been confirmed for me is that, the creator economy space is, even though creators are driving the space, and there's a lot of creators, there's millions of creators, being a creator is what most young people want to do. The businesses that get acquired in the space are the businesses that are enabling brands to work with creators. And so it's interesting because if you
Yeah.
remember the earlier creator economy investment boom in 21 and 22, a lot of the businesses that were being funded were businesses that were focused on helping creators better monetize their audiences or giving tools to creators to be able to do things or buying creator catalogs. Those business models, for whatever reason, in 2026, they're not being acquired, right? And so even though those businesses got
Yeah.
funding, the ability for those businesses to get to exit, it's been challenged, right? And so I think that shows us that yes, the creator economy is rising. There's a lot of opportunities for creators, but when it comes to enterprises, helping brands work with creators, that's where the
Yeah.
true value is generated, which makes sense, right? Because at the end of the day, the dollars flow from brands to agency partners to creators. And so understanding your proximity towards that source of funding, the brands that, they have a choice. Do they want to invest in advertising or do they want to invest in creators? That is where there's an opportunity to create value.
Mhm.
And, we'll see in 2026 if that shifts, if we start to see some of the businesses focused on, creators as the end client start to monetize and exit. So, I mean, that's something that we've been tracking for a while here at Net Influencer and Influence Weekly. That the acquisitions and the value are really generated from the companies that are working with the enterprises. And yeah, 2026, I will be surprised if that shifts. But if it does shift, that will definitely mark a continued maturity of the creator economy.
Oh, okay, interesting. Nee, I'll add another question to you. If you could choose, what kind of acquisitions would you actually like to see more of next year? More tech, more agencies, global consolidation.
I mean, from my perspective, there's a ton of different talent agencies that exist, and I think the big hypothesis in question is, does it make sense for there to be, 500, 1,000 different talent agencies, several dozen per country, no matter how big that country is, or does it make sense for that to be kind of wrapped into its own super platform? And I don't have a strong opinion on what is right or what is wrong, That said, the folks who are running these agencies, obviously, some of them might want to be in this industry forever, other ones might want to do other things. And so for the sake of understanding kind of how this industry continues to evolve, if there's consolidation at the talent side, that's what I'd be very curious to see in 2026. Is there an opportunity for there to
Yeah.
be, economies of scale with talent? I'm very curious about that since a lot of the major deals here have been more on technology than talent.
Absolutely. Well, Nee, once again, thanks for sharing your insights with us. I think that's a wrap up for this month's Big Three. For everyone in our audience, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back next month with more stories and insights. Talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.